There was a time when the loudest sound in a medieval town was not laughter, not the market, not even the clash of steel. It was a bell, and sometimes that bell meant survival. Long before sirens, radios or text alerts, entire communities depended on a single tower rising above rooftops, watching the horizon in silence. Imagine standing in a narrow cobbled street as a deep, violent peal shatters the morning air. People freeze. They know that rhythm. It is not the call to prayer. It is not a wedding. It is the alarm. In an age when invading forces could appear as dust clouds on the edge of sight, speed meant everything. The higher the tower, the farther the eyes could see, and the faster the warning could travel. Medieval bell towers were not just religious symbols. They were surveillance posts, communication hubs, and acoustic weapons against surprise. Their sound carried miles across fields and forests, turning vibration into defense. Hidden in plain sight, these structures became the nervous system of fortified towns. As Europe fractured after the fall of the Roman Empire, communities became more vulnerable to raids and shifting borders. Viking longships struck coastal settlements without warning. Steppe horsemen swept across Eastern Europe. Rival lords tested each other's walls. In cities like Florence and Bruges, towers began to rise higher, not just as symbols of faith, but as instruments of vigilance. The campanile beside a cathedral doubled as a watchtower. In Italian city-states, the ringing of a bell could summon militias within minutes. In parts of England after the Norman conquest, fortified church towers were deliberately thickened, with narrow windows that allowed observation without exposing defenders. Over time, patterns of bell ringing evolved into coded language. One sequence meant fire. Another meant approaching riders. Another called every able-bodied man to arms. These towers became community contracts in stone and bronze. Everyone understood the signal. Everyone knew their role. The architecture of faith quietly transformed into the architecture of warning. So, how did a bell tower actually function as an early warning system? First, height was everything. Builders selected elevated ground or reinforced foundations to support massive stone shafts. The higher the vantage point, the farther a watchman could scan for dust clouds or torchlight. Imagine climbing a narrow spiral staircase before dawn, reaching an open gallery where wind cuts across your face. From there, fields stretch for miles. When danger appeared, the watchman did not simply ring randomly. Bells were tuned by size and alloy, often cast in bronze with precise ratios of copper and tin. Larger bells produced low frequencies that travelled farther across open land. You know how thunder rolls across valleys? The same principle applied. The tower's openings were carefully positioned to project sound outward rather than trap it inside. Some towers even used multiple bells to create distinct alarm codes. Pulling the rope in controlled intervals created rhythm patterns that villagers instantly recognized. It was analog encryption. Sound became information, and information became survival. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. It is tempting to see these towers as relics, but their logic feels surprisingly modern. Today, we rely on digital alerts, satellite imagery, and centralized emergency systems. Yet, when power grids fail or networks collapse, communities rediscover the value of local, decentralized warning methods. The medieval bell tower teaches redundancy. It shows that communication does not need electricity if it is built into physical space. Think about modern disaster sirens in tornado-prone regions. Their design echoes the same principle: elevated structure, low-frequency sound, coded meaning. Even community preparedness groups now study line-of-sight observation and acoustic signaling for emergencies. Imagine designing neighborhoods where rooftops double as lookout points, where physical signals back up digital ones. The lesson is not nostalgia. It is resilience. Medieval towns assumed that threats would come and prepared accordingly. They invested in visibility, audibility, and shared understanding. In an era of cyber threats and climate disasters, that mindset feels less medieval and more essential. Sometimes the smartest system is the one that cannot be hacked because it is carved in stone. When we look at a medieval bell tower today, we often see romance, symmetry, or religious devotion. We hear a gentle chime marking the hour and think of tradition. But once that same structure carried urgency in every vibration. It turned air into a messenger and fear into coordinated action. It reminded entire towns that they were not isolated households, but a single organism responding to a signal. The genius was not only in the bronze bell or the stonework, it was in the shared agreement that when the tower spoke, everyone listened. That unity transformed architecture into defense. As we face a world where warnings flash silently on personal screens, perhaps there is something powerful in remembering a time when survival depended on collective hearing. The medieval bell tower stands as a monument to awareness, preparation, and community trust. If this hidden layer of history surprised you, consider how many other ordinary structures once carried extraordinary purpose. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and listen closely. Sometimes the past is still If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned